Hello, welcome to Kirsty's Pilates. This video is for anybody who has arthritis in their knees. It will also be fantastic for anybody, so you don't have to have arthritis, but it could be particularly helpful if you have got arthritis in your knees. It's fine if you've got arthritis in your hips. All these exercises will be great for you, but I'm specifically targeting arthritis of the knees. Also, it's great if you've got knee replacements. It's exactly the same exercises you would do. Hip replacements would be okay as well. So I'm going to do a few exercises seated to start with. So this is for absolutely anybody. So if you can't do things standing up or you can't get down onto the floor, you can just do these ones sitting on a chair. So obviously the first thing to say about arthritis is that obviously there's nothing we can do to reverse it. We can't get rid of, we can't cure the arthritis. Once the bones are starting to deteriorate, that's it. But what we can do with Pilates is help to maintain your flexibility in your joints and even increase your flexibility, hopefully, and also to strengthen the muscles surrounding the joints. So I'm going to be focusing on strengthening the muscles around your knees because we're talking about arthritis of the knees. So that's what we can do to help. We can just help to protect the knees by having strong muscles around them. That's what we're aiming for. So this is very, very basic for absolutely anybody. So we're going to be sitting up. So starting off, sitting up in your nice Pilates posture. So you're sitting up nice and tall. You've got your string pulling your head up towards the ceiling. Your shoulders are rolled back. Your shoulder blades are sliding down the back of your ribs. If you can try to be in a nice neutral position, so you're not leaning back into the chair. You're sitting up nice and tall, and your pelvis is nice and level. You're not tilting forwards or backwards too much. And of course your tummy's squeezed in and your pelvic floor's lifted. So all of those things to remember before you start. So I'm not going to be doing any arm movements with this. I'm just going to be focusing on the legs. So it's very, very basic, just the leg exercises to help with your arthritis. So starting with your feet hip distance apart. All I'm going to do, very, very easy, is just lift up one leg. So lift up one knee and then the other one. So you're sitting up nice and tall, your tummy is squeezed in nice and tight and your pelvic floor muscles are lifted. So we're just warming up the muscles, warming up the thighs a little bit, warming up the hips a little bit, just getting the legs moving. So nice and easy. You can do it slower if you want to. Just try to make sure that you're sitting up tall. So to help you do that, squeeze your tummy in as you're lifting up your leg. If you're leaning back into your chair, it's not going to be as effective. So really try and sit up nice and tall and squeeze your tummy in. So that's just little knee lifts to start with. So then we're going to just get the knee warmed up. So you're just going to lift and then lengthen that leg. Bend and back down, lift it up. Straighten it, bend and back down. So just warming up the knee, getting some flexibility going in the knee, some mobility, and also starting to strengthen your thighs. That's really all we can do, to work on strengthening your thigh muscles and all the muscles surrounding your knees. So you're sitting up nice and tall, pelvic floor's lifted, tummy squeezed in. Breathing, of course, don't forget to breathe. Don't hold your breath. Just getting the movement. So obviously if you've got really, really bad arthritis and everything's really, really difficult for you, you could only do a few repetitions and you could do them very, very small. Just try and do what you can to get your legs moving a little bit. And if you've had replacements, obviously for the first 6 weeks you'd be doing only what the physio told you to do. After that you could do very, very gentle things and gradually increase the range of movement, hopefully. So that's just lifting, lengthening, bending and back down, lift, lengthen, bend and back down. Okay, that's all there is to it. So then slightly harder. So we're going to straighten this leg. You might want to be sitting a bit further forward in the chair, but make sure that you're not going to fall off, obviously. Not leaning back in it, sitting up nice and tall. This leg's nice and straight. So you're going to be working from the hip. You're lifting and lowering this leg. So the leg's nice and straight, the movement is coming from your hips. So you're working the hip flexor muscles here, so this is really good if you happen to have arthritis in your hip, which I have, but also you're tightening up the thigh here, so you're working the quads in the front of your thigh. Breathing nice and deeply. Do as many as is comfortable for you. If that's enough for you, then you can stop and have a rest. I'm going to swap legs, so I'm going to do it with the other leg. Sitting up nice and tall, the legs straight, just lengthening that leg and lifting and lowering it. If you want to, if it's easier, you can hold onto the chair, but try not to grip it and try not to tense your shoulders, just for balance if you need it. So the leg's nice and straight. If it gets too tight and it's too much, then stop, have a little rest. Just do whatever is comfortable. You could do 10 repetitions or less, or you could do more. So that's just lifting and lowering the other leg. So sitting up nice and tall, that leg's nice and straight, you're going to the side. So you're breathing nice and deeply, legs moving to the side. So it's working your hips as well, but again, it's strengthening your thighs here. So helping to protect your knees, the muscles surrounding your knees need to be nice and strong. Breathing nice and deeply, keeping the tummy squeezed in. Stop whenever you've had enough if it hurts. The other thing to say is you need to make sure that you know the difference between pain and good pain and bad pain. So I'm going to swap legs now. Obviously we don't want to be in pain, but it's okay to feel a little bit of discomfort because your muscles are working. So I can feel it working these muscles here, my hip flexors, but I wouldn't call it pain. If you feel a sharp pain, then that's not great, you need to stop. But if it's just a little bit of an ache, or you're just feeling your muscles working that you haven't used before, then that's fine. So lengthening the leg away and doing the other leg to the side. So you need to be able to listen to your body and tell the difference between the good pain and the bad pain. The good pain I don't call pain, I call it a little bit of, I just call it work, really. If you feel your muscles working, your joints getting moving, that you're not used to them moving, it can be a bit uncomfortable. But that's okay as long as it is not pain, a bad pain. Also make sure that you're breathing, that will help to get you through the discomfort. So then we're going to do the same thing but with circles. It's really, really easy when you lengthen the leg away to slump back into the chair, to let go of your tummy, to really try and pull your string up towards the ceiling and squeeze in your tummy as you lift the leg. So I'm going to do circles. So same thing, legs nice and straight. Muscles at the front of your leg are working. It's also working your hips. So again, very, very good for hip arthritis of the hip or hip replacements as well. Circles in one direction and then back the other way. Nice straight leg. Don't forget to breathe. Lovely. And then the other leg, lengthen that leg away. You've got circles. If you can keep the other knee still, that would be great. Breathing. And then back the other way. Squeezing the tummy in and lifting up the pelvic floor. Beautiful. Okay. So, there's not loads of things that we can do sitting down. It's just whatever you can do to work these muscles. So there's one more thing. If you happen to have a squeezy, squishy ball like this, or like a half deflated football or anything that's soft, and if you haven't got a ball, I guess you could use a pillow or a cushion or something, just something that's a little bit soft that you can squeeze. And if you put it between your knees and just squeeze the knees together, then again, you're working the muscles. This is working the muscles on the inside of your thighs. So they're called your adductor muscles, and that's working those. Again, that's helping your knees because it's the muscles surrounding the joint that you've got a problem with. If it doesn't work, I know for some people, particularly if you've had a knee replacement, sometimes this doesn't feel comfortable. What you can do is have the ball a little bit higher, and that might work for you. So it doesn't really matter, just that the emphasis is that you're squeezing these legs together and you're working the muscles on the inside of your thighs. That's what we're doing. So you're sitting up tall. I'm going to do it there because that's comfortable. Breathing nice and deeply. If you feel that if one leg's stronger than the other, which it probably will be, you've probably got arthritis in one leg, not the other, or more so in one than the other, you might find that one leg is doing all the work, so that this leg's not really doing anything and this leg's doing all the work. If you find that that's happening, then focus on keeping the good leg still and just use this one, just use the bad leg that's not doing the work. If you need to help push it, that's okay. Just give it a helping hand. So if you're doing both of them and it's imbalanced, one's working more than the other, keep the one that was doing all the work still and just use the weak one and just try and really, really help that with the muscles. So this again, you could use a cushion, a pillow, anything that's got a little bit of padding that you can squeeze together to get those muscles working. So, and then the other thing that you can do, of course, if you can manage it, and you can hold onto the chair if you need to, is standing up and sitting down, standing up and sitting down, standing up and sitting down. So if that's hard work for you, you need to hold onto the chair to get up, that is fine. But you're obviously trying to use your thigh muscles. It's also your glutes you're going to be engaging to get to stand up as well. So tighten up your glutes, tighten up your thighs to stand up. So if you can do as many of these as you can, as it's comfortable, that will really, really help to strengthen these muscles. Standing up, sitting down. You can do 10, that would be great. If 10 is too many, then just do whatever you can do. And if at any point when you're doing any of these exercises you feel the pain in your knees, then stop. The idea is not to do these exercises when you're in pain, if it causes pain. You know, if it's all inflamed, if you're having an episode and it's all inflamed and hot and not feeling great, then that's not the time to do these exercises. You want to do them when it's all calm. Probably not first thing in the morning, because often with arthritis the pain is worse first thing in the morning, so probably a little bit later in the day and your body's had a chance to warm up. So those exercises are all working on strengthening your muscles. I'm just going to do a little stretch, because as well as strengthening these muscles, it's good to stretch them out as well. So I'm just going to do a little hamstring stretch, because that's reasonably easy to do sitting down. So you can straighten one leg out. You might want to perch a bit further forward on the chair. Obviously make sure the chair's not going to tip up and you're not going to fall. So straighten that leg. You can lean forwards into it and you can have your toe pointed. Lean into it, whatever is comfortable for you, and then if it's comfortable, you're going to flex that foot. So you're going to feel the stretch down your calf muscle and up your hamstring, up the back of your thigh. So that again, the muscles that are around your knee are being stretched out. Because it's good to strengthen them, but you've got to stretch them out as well to get them, to keep them moving. So you could also turn the foot outwards. And you're going to be stretching the inside, all the way up the inside of your leg. And you could turn the foot inwards, and then you're going to be stretching all the way down the outside of your leg. So then obviously you would do the other side, so your other leg is straight. You can have the foot pointed, you can lean forwards into it, legs nice and straight, you're getting a bit of a stretch up the back, but then when you flex the foot, you get much more of a stretch up the back of your calf and then your hamstring as well. Breathing nice and deeply as you stretch that out, and then you can turn the foot inwards, stretch down the outside, and breathe. And you can turn the foot outwards to stretch down the inside. We will do these in another position as well in a little while. Lovely, and then come back up. So that was the seated exercises. So we're going to do some standing exercises now. So basically I'm going to do more of the same of what we've done sitting down, but obviously it's standing up, so it's a little bit harder. So if you wanted to hold onto a chair for balance, that's okay. A chair or a wall or table or whatever you've got. Obviously you don't need to if you've got perfect balance, and you don't need to do that. So again, we're standing up nice and tall with our lovely Pilates posture, strings pulling your head up to the ceiling, shoulders rolled back, pelvis nice and neutral, and your tummy is squeezed in and your pelvic floor is lifted. So I'm going to do similar things to what we did sitting down, so just a knee lift. So lifting up the knee the same as you did sitting down on the chair. So again, you're warming up the muscles, you're working the hip flexors and you're working the thighs, just lifting up, warming them up. So little knee lifts, lifting up one leg and then the other leg. And also what you could do is your knee lift to the side, so You just lift it up to the side. Again, this is really going to be helpful for hip problems as well, because you're working more into your hips and your glutes if you're doing this. So hold onto the chair if you need to. So that's knee lifts to the front, knee lifts to the side. You could also do circles. And again, this is really, really good for the hips. Circles in one direction and then back the other way. Standing up nice and tall, tummy squeezed in, pelvic floors lifted, and then the other leg standing up nice and tall. You've got your circles in one direction and then back the other way. So that's your little knee lifts and your hip circles. So we also did sitting down, we did lifting up the leg, lengthening away, bend and back down. So exactly the same, lift the leg, straighten it, bend and back down. And the slower that you can do this, the better. Obviously the more it's going to be working your thigh if you do it slower. So if it's too much, then you can do it a little bit quicker, or obviously do it sitting down. If you're able to do it standing up, that's great. The other thing to think about is try not to sink down into your supporting leg. So I'm standing on this leg, draw up through your thigh, tighten up the thigh, tighten up your buttocks, squeeze your glutes as you lift up, because what you don't want is to be sinking down into that hip, because that's not great for that hip. So what the leg that you're standing on, the supporting leg, is nice and tight. You're drawing up nice and tall, you're lifting up your pelvic floor. Think of everything being long and lifted up towards the ceiling. Don't let it all slouch down and sink down. It's the same thing with your posture, just everything's lifted up and you're not slouching. Same thing with your back. Back's not slumping, neither are your legs. So you're just lifting, straightening, back to the middle and down. Just do 2 more of those. Very, very simple, very, very basic standing exercise. Okay, so then we did sitting down, we did some little leg lifts. So exactly the same thing standing up. One leg to the front, tummy squeezed in nice and tight, just little leg lifts. So the leg's nice and straight, you're drawing up through this leg, not sinking down into this hip. Working the thigh muscle, as well as the hip flexor here. So again, all of these are good for hip problems as well as knee problems. So you can do as many of those as you want to. I'm going to swap sides. So standing up nice and tall, legs nice and straight. You're feeling the movement coming from your hip, not letting the knee bend. You're not letting the ankle move. It's all coming from your hip, and you're breathing nice and deeply. Lovely. So then you get exactly the same. We did when we were sitting down. We did to the side here. You could do it like that, or I'm going to do it just straight out to the side here. So it's easier for me not to hold on, but if you wanted to hold on, you could do the other leg and then turn around, obviously. Standing up nice and tall, legs staying out to the side, not sinking down into this hip. So you're actually working both your legs, working this leg because you're standing on it, and you're working this leg because you're taking it out to the side. So that's your side leg lifts. And then the other side. Standing up nice and tall, pelvic floors lifted, tummy squeezed in, breathing nice and deeply. Don't forget to breathe. Lovely. You can do 10 on each side if that's not too much for you. You can do 8, you do 5, whatever works for you. And we'll just do a few going back, so I'll just show you going behind you. If you lean forward a little bit to go back, tighten up your glutes. Lean forwards a little bit, so you don't want your back to be arching, so that's why you can lean forwards a little bit to those. So you're extending your leg behind you. Again, this is working the hip more, but it's also working the back of your legs, the hamstrings and the glutes, which is all important with all these problems. So that's your leg extensions going back. Lovely. Okay, so we've done some leg lifts. Oh, we can do some squats. So you can have your feet hip distance apart, and you can do some little squats. Again, hold on if you need to. So your knees are bending. If you've got really painful knees, you want to do very, very small ones. Very, very small little knee ones. Don't make it hurt. Nice and gently. And hopefully if you keep doing it, if you do it regularly, then you'll be able to get more range of movement, more flexibility in them. So you can do it facing, holding onto the wall if you want to. So if, just the little ones, if that's okay for you, if you can do it deeper, imagine that you've got a chair behind you and you're sitting back into that chair. What you don't want, what's really bad for your knees, particularly your knees, but for everybody's knees, it's really, really bad if your knees go too far forward and bend too much here. That's really not great for them. So if your knees go further forward than your toes, that's putting an awful lot of pressure on your knees. So particularly with arthritis, you don't want to do that. So you're thinking about going backwards, your bottom's going back. That's why it's great to do it holding on. Your bottom's going back. The other fantastic way of doing this is against the wall. And if you happen to have a big ball, if anybody has a big fitness ball, or even a little ball, like the little squishy ball I was using sitting down, if you have that on your back and you just slide up and down the wall, you can actually get deeper without hurting your knees. And that's an exercise that physios often will give you in the gym, because it's just so good for you, so good for your thighs. So you're really, really working your thighs. That's probably enough of those. So yeah, so that was squats. Little calf raises, so just lifting up onto your toes. So again, we're just trying to strengthen the muscles around your knees. So we've worked quite a lot on thighs, so we're working on calf muscles. So if you're lifting up, obviously you're tightening up your calf muscles. So that's all good. Working the muscles around the knees. Hold on if you need to. You could do a little squat and then a lift, a little squat and a lift. I'm not adding arms into any of these. Obviously, if you were being more energetic, you could add in arms to these. If you wanted, if I was doing teaching a class, we'd be doing arms as well. But just for the very, very basics of the knee problems, I'm just doing the legs. Lovely. Okay, so again, another thing that we could do, some lunges. So again, hold on if you need to. You're going to take a big step forward. Both your feet are facing forwards, your back heel lifts off the floor, and you're going to bend both your knees. So again, if you're bending it too much and it hurts, then don't do it. Anything that you do from this video, if it hurts, then don't do it. It's common sense, really. If it's a good pain, if it's the little ache, a little niggle because you're working your muscles, so if you feel this down here, that's great. If you feel it in your buttock, that's great because you're working those muscles. But if you're feeling it twinging in your knee and it is painful, then you need to stop and not do it. So I'm going to swap legs. So feet hip distance apart, step forwards, both feet are facing forwards, the back heel lifts off the floor, you're bending down with both knees. So what you don't want, again, same as the lunges, is that you don't want your knee to come too far forward because that's putting way too much pressure on your knee. So the way to prevent that is for both knees to bend. If you do a lunge where your back leg is staying straight and that leg's bending, it's going to go way too far forward. So you think of going down rather than forward. You're sitting down, your back's nice and straight, and you're just sinking down into it. So with the lunges, you could either step forwards and lunge and step back, and then swap legs, step forwards and lunge and step back, or you can step forwards and repeat and just do as many of you as you wanted to then. But be aware, at some point it will probably get too much for your knee, so be careful with them. Just do whatever is comfortable for you. Whatever is comfortable for you and your knees. It's just working on building up the muscles, the thighs and the glutes, which is all good. So that's a forward lunge. You can also do a back lunge, which is very, very similar. But as it says, you step back instead of forwards. And again, your back foot lifts off the floor and you're bending down. There's not a lot of difference, but there is a slight difference in it. It's just working slightly different muscles. So you'll feel it here. You'll feel it in this back thigh. And you'll feel it in your glutes, probably both of them. I feel it quite a lot in this front thigh. So again, you step backwards, back heel is lifted, both feet are facing forwards, sitting down into it. So you're not leaning forwards into it, sitting down into it, standing up nice and tall. Lovely. So we can go back to squats. With the squats, we just did hip distance apart. You could do them, take your feet turned out. You could do little squats like that, so it's more like a plie in ballet. Again, as small as you need to. If anything's painful, don't do it or make it smaller. But it's just working slightly different muscles because your leg's in a different position. So you could do it in turn out, You could do it with your feet closer together. Same thing if you did it against the wall, sliding up and down the wall. You can do your feet in different positions. Have them together, have them hip distance, have them wider, but quite little. I'm doing quite small ones. Again, wider, much wider. You could do it. You probably can get down a little bit lower if they're wider. Breathing. Haven't forgotten to lift up your pelvic floor and squeeze in your tummy, and you haven't forgotten to breathe. And again, turned out, you could do it. What you're aiming for is that your knees to go forward over your middle toes. So wherever your toes are pointing, that's the direction that your knees want to go. People's knees are not always going to do that. They might want to, for example, if you're straight forward, your knees might come inwards, or they might go outwards, depending on what's going on with your knees. But you're aiming for them to come straight forward over your middle toes. Okay, so that's quite a lot of basic exercises there for the legs. I'm just going to do a stretch. So we did a seated hamstring stretch. I'm just going to do a quad stretch because it's easy to do standing up. So obviously we've worked these muscles quite a lot, so we're just going to stretch them out. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this lying down as well. So if you can't manage it standing up, you can do it lying down. Hold on to something, and if you can reach your foot, pick it up. Try to keep your knees together. You're just holding onto your foot, and you want to be pushing your pelvis forwards a little bit. So you really should be feeling a stretch all the way down the front of your thigh, possibly here as well, the hip flexor. Try to keep your knees together. Make sure that you're breathing. If it's too difficult for you to hold onto your ankle here, you could use a towel or a band or something, wrap it round. If you can do that, that would work. So I'm just going to do the other side. Oops. So pick up your foot. Try to keep your knees together. Push your pelvis forward a little bit, really try and feel that stretch down the front. Again, if this hurts, if your knee in this position doesn't feel great, if that's too much stress, obviously don't do it. If you can manage it and it feels okay, and it's just a stretch, that's fine. But if it hurts, if it's painful in your knee, then you don't want to do it. So that was just some very, very gentle exercises, seated and standing, to help if you have arthritis in your knees. I'm going to be doing another video where I'll be doing some lying down exercises, so look out for that. But for today, that was your seated and standing exercises for arthritis of the knees. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.